Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out making another marble. Thanks for stopping by. Today's gonna be kind of comfort food. We're gonna stick to some things that seem pretty familiar, but there's one element of this process that I'm gonna tweak to see how that goes. First, I gotta make some base material. It's gonna be kind of the guts of this marble. We're gonna build up a little twisty piece on some whatever this rod is, 10-15 millimeter. Just clean up this end here. Got to warm it up because the first thing we're going to do is some gold fume. So I need a good section of this. Kind of just keep rotating, and the fire stick out a little ways out here because we're just trying to get some base heat going on. Got a place there that I've connected some sections together. Make sure we get some good heat into that so we don't wind up with any cracking from the heat affected zone. Alright, we're going to jump into some gold fuming. We need to get our torch down to an oxidizing kind of tight flame. We know we got it hot because it started bending. Alright, so we can warm up our gold. Got some crazy weather. It's kind of making some slushy snow out there right now. Supposed to dip down well below freezing here the next few nights. So that's a little weird because it's been green, green, green. I've been already mowing this season. Alright, we got our little gold nugget right down there on one of the candles. Keep running this and building up some gold on this piece. And it's looking pretty good. Kind of roll this on the marver plate to squeeze that gold out. Make sure it doesn't submarine on me. Alright, we've got some dark cobalt. That's always a good option for sealing in some gold fume. And that stuff's bright, so we're going to lower our shades. Cobalt glass is an infrared emitter. It throws out quite a signature, so we kind of want to protect our eyes from that. I'm going to do 2 lines, kind of running off the full-size rod, so laying it down kind of thick. Okay, and then I've got some IO star. I use this in a number of interior design build. And we're going to come down with, try and make sort of an equal measure of this. When you're laying something down like this, you have your base piece, you're kind of moving this keeping the color rod kind of stationary in the flame and moving your working piece down through it. Okay, now I want some clear in between. At least I've got a smaller 5mm clear. Alright, that's all the lines that it can fit on there. Turn on the big fire. Melt these lines in. Make sure you get some heat all the way across it. And I'm going to start out by heating this end to full heat. Okay, once that's all the way melted together, we're going to put a handle on there. This full heat means it's completely soupy hot, so it's hard to control unless you have some handles in place. Just kind of work that heat down across the whole piece. And kind of rotate one direction and the other to avoid twisting, although it's going to get all twisted up here in a minute, so that's not really a factor. It's actually pretty difficult to make something like this and keep the lines super straight. Okay, we've worked across the whole piece. Now we're going to cut off this large end. So we get kind of a tight flame there, and just going to flame cut this off. Seems like it's behaving. Alright, switch hands and grab a handle. That torch was kind of set for our gold fuming. We need to bump this up. Now we want to kind of twist this up to be a section that I'm going to divide into 4 pieces. So I need sort of 6 inches or something of material to work with. I'm going to start off with a gentle twist. This twisting can be kind of mesmerizing. It's basically just one side's moving faster rotations than the other side. Kind of get this end to taper a little bit. Down to a little smaller diameter. There we go. Well, this is going to be longer than 6 inches at that diameter, so try and thicken this up a little bit. Nothing particularly magic about 6 inches. I just need at least that, but I'm going to wind up with a bit more. Yeah, just realizing the tool that I need next, I don't have on the bench. I got to go grab it. All we needed to cool this down a little bit anyway. So I've got my tile nippers. This is a good cutting tool for glass work. And we're going to kind of try and divide this up. Crude but effective. Oops. Didn't do a very good fusion on that. Okay, just need some temporary handles on this. Okay, that may seem a little crazy, but we got her done. Got 4 little pieces to add to my marble. Okay, we'll jump into our larger rod here. Okay, take a moment. Got through that first part. That was one element that I had in mind to make. So I made it through that process. Let's see if we can incorporate these into the marble, though. That may be some issues there that could happen. I'm not putting these things aside into a heater, which maybe I should. See if I can get away without using that. Clean up our cut edge here. I hope you guys are doing good. I'm doing pretty good here. Western Montana. It's not too crazy. We try and keep it pretty chill here on the farm, on our property. I say farm, we do a little growing of various things here, but our neighbors kind of around us, ranchers, and they've got all the cow-calf pairs moved off of the field that is right up against our house, and they'll be growing hay through the summertime. So we've watched lots of little calves being born. It's been a good year for calving. Hopefully it's a good year for ranchers here. So I just need to build up a gather here, base to start working off of. And it's always kind of a loosey-goosey question of how big of a gather do I need? Looking pretty clean, that's nice. Okay, we need to settle this down and so it's not drooping, which it is now. Take a moment, grab a sip of coffee. I think I still had the same mug last week. Anyway, I got my mug full of marble ideas. The cool thing is all my marble ideas that I have pictures of, I've got the full video of how I made it. So I can go back and see what I did. Yesterday I was looking through just a couple of old videos and I couldn't even remember making them. I was like, wow, is that what I did? So that's always kind of fun. So these sections, we'll start with the fat ones. We're going to try and warm these up. See some nice glow happening. That's always a good sign. And what we're doing we're going to stick these down onto our base here. This is going to look pretty crazy. This might be a crazy idea. We'll see. See if I can pull this off. Two really sticking out here. This may be just an insane idea. Maybe it's not a good idea, but we'll try it. It's just saying nothing ventured, nothing gained. I pulled my twisty out a little bit thinner than I wanted. I wanted this to be shorter, stubbier pieces here, but we're gonna go with it now. It's like some kind of electrical power grid situation going on here. Alright. Well, going wild and crazy today. If I really wanted to chicken out, I could cut these down shorter pieces, but see what happens here. So just pulling off some excess, not trying to make anything too pretty right here, but now somehow or another we got to melt all this stuff down. So we'll try some heat and gravity to start with. This would have been easier if I'd done each one of these little sections and collapsed it down. It's a fine time to think of that idea. So just kind of a silly process of trying to keep these in. didn't envision these to be such long segments. It would take so much work to collapse in, but some interesting things happen as it's collapsing in a wiggly worm way. Probably should have taken a little bit more time visioning my process today. It's the step after this that was the only step that I really had in mind. Well, it's an interesting exercise anyway. For all these gyrations and wiggles, though, may generate some effects, asymmetrical effects. Who knows whether you're going to see that or understand that in the finished marble or not. So keeping or building some base heat, which I really want this whole core to get pretty hot eventually. Try and get these to fuse in. But right now it's causing me just more wibbly wobbly issues than anything. It's kind of making it harder to use the gravity control. So it's just kind of like melting in big dots. These are just unruly big dots. And as they're compressing, those lines, of course, are tightening up. It'll make more sense as we go along, I hope. So I should have started out with little stubby pieces about this size. This would have made this a little better demonstration. But this is where these crazy ideas have to kind of flow, you know, you get some crazy idea and like I said, I didn't get very far going to my mind palace and trying to see how this was going to work out. If I'd spent a little bit more time in the mind palace, I think I would have done this differently. Now I'm going to encourage this to move along. Do some aggressive moves here. It's kind of surprising how long it takes to get stuff to melt down on its own. It's really wanting to keep this shape. So this is just a more extreme version of some things that I've done before with adding little drops of twisty cane on the outside. More heat, Scotty. Well, I can take this minute to thank our sponsor, Epicwater Filters. We've got a link in the description below if you choose to get a water filter and avoid all the bottled water you might be purchasing. They make some excellent products, and you can help out the channel if you follow that link and make a purchase. We're enjoying our pitcher in the refrigerator at home. It's nice to be able to grab a pitcher of nice, cold, clear, clean, filtered water out of the refrigerator. We're making progress, folks. This might be a silly way to run a railroad, but we're getting there. And one thing at this point, we're kind of close enough we can actually use the marble mold and start getting this to cooperate. Yeah, you didn't think I'd get there, did you? So this will create some very asymmetric windows into the world around the interior. If this smaller mold will pull this together. That's getting there. Wow, we made it this far. We'll make a marble out of this. I always enter into these projects and think, it's just me at the torch with the video cameras rolling. I can always just delete all this or stop and start over or whatever. But I pretty much, I want to push through and show, it's like, okay, my decision process maybe wasn't the greatest on this marble build. But, live and learn. See what we can do. And there's so many things like this. I mean, if you just finish this off as a marble, just from here, do nothing more, just get this into a round marble, it'd be pretty interesting, I think, seeing the pattern through the other side. Might be befitting of the wild and crazy marble. So now I'm going to try and heat this shoulder and try and build up some material here, because the next step is going to be trying to get this into a cone shape. And I want that cone to end up at the upper reaches of these swirls. So I kind of need some material here. Oh, it's not going to quite look right. And then, finally, got a cool down phase. To settle this down. Okay, so this next step is the only thing that I really had brainstormed. Everything unfolded from this next manipulation. So for that, we need to heat this end. We've got it kind of angled up because I want to start generating this cone shape. I just really want to kick this in the butt here. And yeah, you're going to lose some pattern doing this. So this little move here was my whole intention. It might seem a little silly, but I wanted to draw out, instead of having any pattern down on the low end of the cone, I wanted to do the decorations on the sides and pull it out the bottom, the tip. Okay, well, that's the idea. And at this point, start squishing this in for a cone pattern. What did I say at the beginning? This was going to be comfort food? Not sure how much comfort I'm feeling. I'm not digging it quite yet. Not feeling all the comfort. It's kind of a weather-related sentiment. So I'm trying to kind of grab all of this pattern to be part of the cone. It's getting a little tricky here. Sometimes you have to kind of overdo things and then pull out parts you don't need, and that can kind of feel like you're wasting material. But sometimes that's just kind of the way it goes. Alright, well, we've got quite the cone shape now. Move into the background phase. Got some red frit, some cherry red. And depending on how dense these swirls are, or not, you may or may not see a lot of this background. I think we'll be able to see quite a bit of it. As I often do with this is just kind of a little accent sprinkles. I'll work this in to try and kind of shorten up the cone. Oops, sorry about that. Alrighty, moving up in the world, we've got some color that I'm going to spiral onto the backside. So I've got some blue spruce and some black. So let's start out with some blue spruce here. Okay, kind of define our line there. Now usually I'm trying to get a full layer, so sort of a barrier of what I call the base color. But this may not be a full barrier. So I drew out these rods to a smaller diameter. I thought it'd be a lot easier than trying to do this same effect with the full-size rod. And happy I made that choice. I think we'll let this melt in on its own here. I'm not using a bunch of marbling to force it. So yeah, the comfort food today is just the weather's kind of changed. There are a couple days of cold weather, and it's springtime, but it's kind of in a funk for a few days. So I'm just kind of trying to settle in. There's a lot coming up this spring and summer, really, for us. We've got some busy times ahead, maybe some weeks that I'm not able to do this marble video. We'll see how it goes. Got a family get-together happening next month. So we've got a lot of stuff we're looking forward to, but it is going to impact our schedule. Alright, we're getting kind of loosey-goosey here, so I have to step out of the flame and settle down. And try and get the rotation to just match the fall rate. This is somewhat like orbital mechanics of satellites and spacecraft. It's always falling, but if you get the rotation the right speed, it appears to be stationary in its positioning. Okay, I'll do a little smoothing just because. And then we're going to do some silver fume and a soft flame. Alrighty. Very good. Well, moving on to our fill-in glass. And kind of bump the torch up. It can be a little rich. You're working with just the clear. So start wrapping this around the end, but leave the end exposed. We only got a minute to fill this in. Try not to rush things. I do sometimes feel, you know, if I've got the cameras going, it's like, oh, people are watching, they want to see this thing move along, and I do have sometimes pressure on myself to hurry up, and that's generally not a good idea. You gotta go at the speed of the glass and the torch and the workpiece. That should dictate how fast you try and operate. And it's kind of an adage that I learned a long time ago that sometimes what seems like slowing down, you actually are more productive. Now, I'm a long ways away from cranking out tons of work every day like I used to, but the days that I was frantic, and this goes back to the job I had in manufacturing years and years ago, the days that I would be kind of frantic and trying to work hard, I got like half as much done as the days I was just chill. I just took my time, do it right the first time. I don't know. It's funny, you get caught up in your head of how fast or slow things are going. So if you find yourself getting antsy or anxiety with the glass work, or whatever artwork you're doing, or the job, your 9-to-5 job, whatever it is you're doing, it's always important to just breathe. Take a breath. Take a few deep breaths. If you learn box breathing, you may need to resort to some box breathing if that's helpful. If you're stressing. I've tried it going to the dentist's office and the clinic, especially the doctor, which I don't do often. I don't know, breathing exercises haven't helped a lot to bring down my blood pressure when I'm in certain circumstances. But particularly like this, where I'm in my own space, comfortable surroundings, I get to listen to music that I want to listen to. There's no reason you can't just chill. As part of the glass work, I mean, your energy is being permanently trapped in glass. I don't think of it that way. It's a very personal, I used to look at glass work in shops that come from operations overseas, and I don't mean to be overly critical or slamming any other country or their industry or their workers, but I just sort of look at it and think, well, it's executed well, and can't say as there's anything really obviously wrong with it. Price is good, obviously, but there's something just missing, and I think it's that energy from the heart. As Rae always talks about, it's like grandma's cooking versus cafeteria food. It might be the same recipe, same ingredients. But grandma's cooking is going to be better. So come up to where this color started. And try and come right up to the line. Okay, then we can heat this in before we go on and add more clear. Now this end, as I heat this up, as soon as we get a chance, we kind of push this clear glass away from that tip. So we kind of push in and sharpen that cone there. On this back side, a lot of times I do it with a marble paddle, but you can do it up here. Just kind of cut that in. You don't need much material along that edge. And what we want is to fill in between this zone. Try and round it up. And now that it's clear on clear, we can kind of use some different methods to build up some mass. It's not as important how this step is done. Okay, that's quite a bit of clear on there. Time to melt that in. Excuse me, melt that in and round it up. Some steps when you can, when things aren't flopping around, you use slow rotations and you can deliver a lot more heat to the piece. Giving that flame a bit of time to sit in one spot and really blast it. Try and heat that very end. Get a little bit of an angle and let that point kind of get drawn out. Clear glass will have a tendency to kind of pull that colored glass underneath, or leave it alone. Maybe it's not pulling it at all, but it's flowing around it. And the net effect is it kind of squeezes that vertex point, constricts it. Okay, before we get to the next phase, we want to just make sure we're pretty well smoothed out. All right, another chance to settle down and have a sip of coffee. At least it's not snowing outside. All right, today we have got for the back side some Silver Strike 5, some Dragon's Blood, and some Unobtanium. Kind of a nice combo that I've done quite a few times. Just kind of come right along that transition edge between the clear and the color. Spiral this on with some room for the other colors. I always get out here on a cold morning and worry about warming up the shop, and then I get to this point and I'm a little too warm. Okay, we'll do Dragon's Blood. Draw some blood. It's a really nice red. Usually gets a nice gem quality. Ruby is excellent in some applications, and this color in blown out work can get a little darker than, a little more muddy than ruby, I think. So like my pixie orbs, and back when I was making a lot of hummingbird feeders, I always used ruby as the red transparent glass. So using it like this, it tends to make a really nice, especially with that background when I silver fume that layer underneath. It's got usually pretty good reflective properties. It's just getting really short. Just barely do this. Okay, that's hot. And last but not least, Unobtanium. This has been one of my all-time favorite colors to put on the back side of the marble. You can't put it inside the marble, unfortunately. It'll crack. But as a surface decoration, it's been a real solid, very pretty color. Lots of sparkle. Okay, I think I saw one spot. Where'd you go? There it is. You can pop some bubbles if you see something significant. We're making progress. Dragon's Blood will run clear when it's hot, but it'll strike on its own. Doesn't really matter what you do in the kiln cycle, at least I haven't seen it makes much difference. But it is, when it runs clear, it's kind of a good indication when it's fully heated in. But it's not like the amber purple where you have to work really hard to chase the haze out. This area up at the top is a little trickier because the rod starts wibbly wobbling around with this much heat. We do kind of want to make sure we don't bail out too fast on this step. Well, that's good. All right, got our trusty tungsten pick, tungsten electrode, and a pin vise. I just sharpened the tip this morning. You have to keep grinding and filing off the point where it wears away. All right, let it settle down enough. Now this step is pretty deliberative. Make sure you got enough heat in the glass so that it rakes clean. Should be able to drag through the glass with very little drag, but you do want to drag. Part of the raking or feathering process is pulling the glass along. You can see it's getting a little off kilter. So the trick about this is I don't like to wait too long because I don't want to lose all the base heat. But if you don't wait long enough, it can go way off center. And once you're going like this, you're kind of committed. Yeah, now by this point my pin vise is getting mighty hot. Hard to hang on to. Alright, now we can correct our goofy off axis. Get somewhat of control on it. Now it's best after that raking to just let the heat kind of level things out, but it can get a little frustrating. So you'll probably drop it in the marble mold here in a second. Okay, we can go for a punty. Try and visualize the punty attached to the marble and ignore whatever's going on the other side. When we start building up our lens, we start by getting that little corner, a little valley, try and really throw some heat into that. Because it will, no matter what you do, it will generate a certain amount of creasing underneath, even if it's not a crease at the surface. Which will get some optical mess out of that. In my experience anyway, that's kind of inevitable with what I have to work with. So, it's not my imagination. This marble is growing into quite a bit larger than it always seems like they keep getting bigger. So this phase we're kind of pushing out that edge between the color and clear. Getting warm. So now we're just kind of working on feeding in, feeding that rod in, letting it push with just the weight of the rod. So I may have to kind of modify my usual proportions of clear to color, so it's just going to get too big for me to manage. One elbow on my right arm is I'm having a little trouble with it lately, and it's not very happy right now. So I'm just going to have to call it. Okay, well. Do a little rip tear here. Put my shades down. This part gets a little bright. Well, a little bit different marble today. Everyone's different. Kind of learned some things. I don't know if I'll remember what I learned. That's why I have these videos to go back and see what I did wrong. But usually, there's a lot of steps where I'm a slow learner, I guess. I make my own mistakes. I find myself in the same position. And I know I've done some things kind of like that, but more sticking out at the end. And having to collapse those down takes a while. So I was trying to do just a slightly different geometry with that pulling out, having the patterns more on the sides and then pulling out the tip. So we'll see. Oops. What a mess. Kind of laying the tweezers kind of flat. With the surface and just kind of pulling off a peel. Oh, dang it. You don't want to do that. Wait a moment and flick it off. And the problem with that is I don't know where when I flicked that off, I don't know where it went. Hopefully it didn't cause any trouble. punchy issue. This is going to make me nervous, so I'm going to swap punchies here. I don't want to switch punchies at this stage, but this one I'm seeing a little crack in it. So, see if I can juggle all this stuff. There's a little part that wants to break loose. That can be pretty dicey. So, rather than waiting for the marble to drop off the punchy, I knocked off the end of it and reattach here. A nice solid connection. Trying to leave this one ready for the next punchy swap. A little bit of general heat here to settle things in. Okay, guys. We're trying to avoid disaster. When your whole workpiece is pretty hot, punchies are pretty stable, but I just noticed there was a little crack, 1/4 inch back from the end, and I don't know if you caught that, but when I was whacking it on the bench, this is the piece that came off of there. So if you have a little crack like that, it can just snap off easy. And that you don't really want. Okay, take a breath. Try and keep with the chill zone here. Don't panic. Stay focused. I need to get this plate off of here. Alright, we're into the final phases of shaping this up. We've got to get our pill shape into a sphere. So kind of run into the elm arbor here to try and barrel it. Make sure we're transitioning from a good symmetrical shape. And this one's kind of empty in the center, so I'm going to throw some heat down inside there and see if we can get this whole thing to move. Use some fast rotations to kind of pull that outside edge out. I don't know how big this marble's turning out, but it's bigger than usual. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging to get shaped up. Like I say, the good side is there's not a lot of, well, there isn't anything down in the core that tends to restrict it from moving. Okay, swap punties. Get our first kind of peaks inside there. And again, we're still going with just full fusion puntee. Try not to disrupt that lens too much. Now we can finally pull this one off and do a proper job of cleaning up the mess there. Well, this all kind of goes all the way back to the beginning of the marble when I had the large rod and I was building up a gather and I wasn't sure how big of a gather I needed to start with. And so all those proportions that start out right at the beginning, I should have made that twisted piece thicker or taken each one of those individual sections and collapsed them down prior to laying them on the core. And yeah, that initial gather was larger than I needed, which doesn't really surprise me. So this gets a little more stubborn to get this color to scooch together with the clear. Using a bit of an angle, actually an aggressive angle if I can. Get this puntee out in front with the torch, aiming back Going backwards here. Try some rotations on this side. Tends to kind of shorten things up. Okay. Make a pass in the large marble mold. Another pass in the smaller one. About now, I wish I had a bigger torch. So now we're just kind of bouncing around between these marble molds, trying to make brief passages into the graphite because it sucks out a lot of heat. So you're trying to build up heat to get it to move. The minute it touches the marble mold, it starts showing that surface. So it doesn't want to move. And once again, I'm in a position where I really need to invest in another size marble mold because we've got like a two-inch, and I think that one is a 2.5 inch. I need a 2.25 inch. Trying to use a fair bit of pressure here to get that to move. It's getting there, little by little. Coming up on 2 hours here. Counterintuitive, but I also like to hang the marble down. I don't have to fight as much to keep it on center. It kind of allows the heat to rise and move in different directions. It gets kind of off center there. It's easier to rotate it hanging down. Stays on center better. In order to get this last bit to pull together, it takes, the whole marble needs to be pretty willing to move. Now the only thing that's different about the marble molds is like the more you use them, the marble mold now is pretty dang hot, so it's losing less heat while it's sitting in that mold. Now I start watching the reflections of the lights. Still looking at that zone between the color and the clear, just on the color side, it's still got some flat spots. Now we're getting kind of down to the flame polish stage, so I'm going to try and go into the mold and go kind of fast rotations to the last pass in here. So we just kind of spin it up. Now, oddly enough, we get just to this point and then we need to lose some heat. Because we've achieved our full shape. We just need to clean up the front lens, but in the meantime we got to get this backside flame polished. So we prep it by just doing lots of rotations. And once it's kind of cooled off, then we heat it up again, but just that surface. And again, we're looking at the lights, looking for wrinkles. There's a few little wiggles I can see. And I'll check it with the light over here. It looks pretty smooth. I'll hit it a little bit more for good luck. All right, come out of the flame and let it chill down. The cool down phase of a marble is very critical to getting it round, so continue some slow rotations. It's still moving. If you stop rotating, you're going to wind up distorting the shape. Well, it definitely created a different effect than I've done before. Kind of interesting. I'm hoping someone will really like this marble. I think it's pretty cool. I kind of went out on a limb today. And this was supposed to be, what did I say? This was supposed to be comfort food. This was supposed to be an easy peasy marble. I just had one thing I wanted to do. And instead I got kind of crazy. You can kind of maybe see that the old punty is rotating funky. I just let it flop around. Try and focus on the new punty. And then we're going to dig out any glass here where the punty was. We don't want any little dissimilar materials there. Even though the glass, maybe it's all Simax, but it's going to have different refractive properties from one piece to another, and depending on what kind of heat cycles it's been through, what the surface has been put through. Any connection tends to have some issues. So the goal now is just to smooth out the lens. Yeah, somewhere here. I always hate to do that, but try to pick out a little spot. And it's just all clear. It should resolve pretty rapidly. Okay, we're trying to get some good heat on there. It looks a little flat to me on the front face, which it often is, so I'm letting it drop. I'll go into the marble mold and try and run kind of gently and quickly in the same direction as we transition through. And that gets 99% of the shape. It's looking good. So the next run through, we'll give it a sec, cool down before we put it in the marble mold. And then we want some fast rotations. Again, we're kind of cooling down the heat base on the interior. I'll come in here with the good hot flame and hit it pretty hard, especially on that very front face. There'll be little concentric wrinkles. Do some slow rotation if we can. We want to get out of there before it starts really creating any larger waves or asymmetries. Again, I'm looking at this one light, puts out a pretty broad reflection. It's kind of nice for looking at a large surface area. Do one more heat cycle and then we're good. Yay, made it. We're not quite done yet. Still got to get it off the punty, heal it up, and get it in the kiln. Alright, well, got some cool effects. And it's crazy big for what I've been doing. I've been trying to keep them just a little over 2 inches. They've been kind of creeping up to 2 1/4 inches. Because a small amount of larger diameter in a sphere is quite a bit more mass. So it changes up pretty rapidly as you go up in size. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to hover over our marble mold. Freezer's wet. And chill our attachment. Knock it loose. Fire polish it. Well, we had a couple challenges today. It wasn't quite the easy peasy marble I was longing for. But it's all good. Thanks so much, guys, for hanging out. We really appreciate thumbs up, comments, all that stuff helps the channel. Looking solid. Into the kiln. Be happy, marble. Play nice in there. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for being with us. We hope you take care of yourself. Self-care is important so that you can take care of your friends and family. And we wish you all the very best. We'll see you again on another adventure, another day. Check it out.